Hey, what's going on, you all? Welcome back to yours truly. I'm glad you all decided to stop by because I wanted to speak to you all about something. So, this is a term that I learned about maybe like 5 or 6 years ago when I was in school. And even though I had been in this situation many times and I was feeling all of the effects of it, I didn't know there was a word for it. And then when I found out the word for it, then I was like, oh, okay, that fits exactly what I was dealing with. So the word is called plausible deniability. Let me explain what this means because I'm pretty sure you all have been in this situation. So, you ever notice how some people always seem to have like the perfect excuse? It's not necessarily the truth, but it's something just believable enough that you really can't call them out on it. It's like this gray zone between what's possible and what's provable. So it's not an outrageous lie, but it's instead an explanation that makes you hesitate. And when you hear it, you start thinking, well, even though I don't believe that that's true, it could be true. And that little bit of doubt is all they need because in a way it's gaslighting really. So I'm sure you all have been in this situation. Take something really common like a phone call, right? So let's say you try to call someone multiple times and they don't answer. So hours later, they finally get back to you and they say, oh, I didn't even notice my phone was ringing. Or, sorry, my ringer was off. Now, sure, that's possible because phones get silenced, people get distracted, they fall asleep, they take showers, they put their phone on do not disturb, like me sometimes when I'm making videos. So it happens. But if you've seen this pattern before, you know in your gut, it just wasn't bad luck. Like you just weren't playing cat and mouse and kept missing them. Because sometimes you know when someone's trying to avoid you. And you can't prove that otherwise. So their excuse remains safe because it can't be completely ruled out because it falls within the realms of possibility. So let's take this to the workplace because this has happened. So let's say you're trying to reach your supervisor for something important. You have a customer on the phone, they're going off, I want to speak to your supervisor. And every time you need them, they're quote unquote unavailable. And the explanation is always the same. I was in a meeting. Sorry, I was tied up with calls. Is it possible they're in meetings a lot? Well, yeah, that's very possible. Do you know for certain that's always the case? Well, no, because you're not there. So it gives them a ready-made shield. It absolutely gives them a shield because meetings do happen constantly in many workplaces. And that means you can't disprove their excuse, even though you feel like they're avoiding you. And that's the whole point. It gives them this wiggle room. And once you start noticing this, you realize plausible deniability shows up everywhere. So let's take another example, like texting, right? So imagine you accidentally send something mean in a group chat. People have done that. And then people react. And then you quickly follow it up with, oh, I didn't mean to send it in here. It was a mistake. So suddenly you built yourself like an exit ramp, right? That explanation allows you to deny that you were being mean on purpose. And I've seen people do that. Now, here's where it gets more frustrating. If you actually call someone out, if you say, I don't think that's true, or I think you're avoiding me, people who rely on this trick often turn it around and put it back on you. Suddenly, you're the one on trial. They'll say things like, well, you're assuming, or you don't know what I was doing, or you weren't there, or you in my head. You don't, they have all these things that they say to turn it back on you. And now you're second guessing yourself. Instead of them defending their behavior, you're busy defending your judgment, even though your gut is telling you, no, something's off. You think maybe I'm just really overreacting. Maybe I don't know all the facts. And that's not accidental. That's a strategy. So now, one or two of these situations, they don't really seem like much. You can really overlook them. A missed phone call here, a wrong text there, a supervisor who was too busy. You know, if you take them individually, each reason sounds believable, right? They sound believable. But when you experience it over and over and over and over again, it becomes a pattern that it's impossible to ignore. So that's when your gut kicks in. Like, that gut instinct isn't imaginary. You know, psychologists talk about something called thin slicing, and I've never heard of that before, and I had to go, look it up. Is when your brain makes these quick judgments based on tiny slices of behavior. So, for instance, tone, timing, body language, the way someone dodges eye contact, and often those snap judgments are more accurate than you sitting there overthinking for hours and hours and hours because you see them in real time. So when you get that uneasy feeling, that sense that someone is always dodging, always slipping behind an excuse, that's really not paranoia. That's your brain piecing together what the words don't say. That's why I say, micro expressions are very telling. And so here's the reality. You don't need this courtroom level evidence to decide how much trust you need to give someone. Because life, the things that happen to us in life, it isn't always a trial. Friendships, relationships, work dynamics, they're built on patterns of consistency and honesty. So if someone constantly leaves you doubting, then that pattern itself is enough reason to kind of step back. There's something that's something that I had to learn personally. When someone keeps hiding behind these excuses that you really can't prove, but they kind of sound like, okay, something's not right. I eventually stopped trying to dissect it. I just cut them off. I just don't deal with them. And now, it's not something that is done out of anger, because sometimes people say, well, you're angry. You're holding a grudge. No, it's out of self-protection, because in every interaction, if it leaves you drained or confused, then the trust isn't really there. Okay. So some people will call that an overreaction, and they have a right to call it an overreaction. But in my opinion, I don't think so, because the older you get, you have to start listening to your instincts. You can feel when someone's avoiding you or someone's making excuses. And here's the thing. To you, your gut is all the proof you need. It's the record of every time you walked away uneasy. And I did a video on this, those backhanded compliments. You might not be able to prove a lie, but you can prove how it made you feel in the aftermath. And if every interaction leaves you questioning yourself, then y'all need to take that as a sign. So it doesn't matter if it's a friend, a coworker, a boss, a family member. Remember this. I want y'all to remember this. Plausible deniability may protect them in the moment, but it doesn't have to trap you. You don't need to wait for a smoking gun before you protect yourself. You're allowed to make decisions based on the patterns you see, not the proof, okay? Because trust isn't about a single excuse. It's about whether over time someone makes you feel secure. So if all they ever leave you with is this doubt upon doubt upon doubt, then maybe you need to take that doubt as all the proof that you really need. So I'll go ahead and see you all in the next video. Take care.